The advisor clenched his jaw, his own son had spoken. More palace. The advisor clenched his jaw, his own son had spoken. More palace. The advisor clenched his jaw, his own son had spoken. More palace. The advisor clenched his jaw, his own son had spoken. More palace. Huan Shu swiftly intervened, positioning himself between me and the attacker, his sword flashing in the fading light. Wei, take out your sword, he shouted, but I hesitated, unsure of how to hold the weapon, let alone wield it. Jin Ling urged me on. Wei, what are you doing? Come on, use the sword. I muttered to myself, I'm not Wei Liang. I don't even know how to hold this. It's so heavy. My hands trembled, and at last, I stumbled, dropping the sword and its scabbard. A masked attacker seized the opportunity. He lunged at me, and I dodged, muttering, I'm not Wei Liang, and you won't get anything by killing me. Don't do that. He succeeded in pinning me to the ground, his sword mere inches from my face. Huan Shu saved me once more, dispatching the attacker with swift precision. I whispered, why are they doing all this? I'm not who you think I am. Don't kill me. I called out to him, Prince, look. Huan Shu turned, his eyes locking onto mine with a mixture of shock. Dai Hyun, engaged in combat nearby, froze upon hearing this and whispered, you called him Prince. Just then, another attacker emerged from behind Huan Shu. With lightning-fast reflexes, Huan Shu spun around, his sword slicing through the air, striking the attacker with deadly accuracy. The force of the blow sent the assailant stumbling backward, giving Huan Shu the opening to protect me. As the fight raged on, Huan Shu grasped my waist, holding me securely against him, his sword and arm wrapped around me. A rush of emotions flooded through me, from fear to gratitude, as I gazed up at him, our faces inches apart. His warm breath caressed my skin, sending shivers down my spine. Xiao Yun, Tong, and Bao joined the fray, wielding wooden clubs to subdue the attackers. The sound of cracking wood and grunts of pain filled the air as they worked to overpower our assailants. As the dust settled, our attackers lay defeated, some fleeing in disarray. Tong and Bao exchanged a sarcastic glance, their eyes gleaming with amusement. Looks like they won't be bothering us again, Tong quipped, eliciting a chuckle from Bao. Huan Shu's gaze never left mine, his eyes burning with unspoken intensity. Xiao Yun was chuckling with Tong and Bao, but when her gaze drifted to us, her smile vanished. Everyone's gaze lingered on us, their faces etched with shock and bewilderment. However, Jin Ling's expression stood out, her face twisted in frustration, her eyes blazing with a mix of anger and hate. Dai Hyun's eyes met Jin Ling's, and he cleared his throat, as if to break the tense silence. Meanwhile, Huan Shu gently yet firmly pushed me away, creating some distance between us. Just then, a group of palace soldiers arrived, their armor gleaming in the soft light of the room. Huan Shu turned to them, his voice firm and authoritative. Investigate this attack immediately. I want to know who did it. The soldiers bowed deeply, their voices trembling slightly. Yes, Your Highness. We will do our best to uncover the truth behind this attack. Jin Ling intervened, her voice shrill as she shouted, maybe the assassins were sent by you, Prince Huan Shu. You've tried to kill Wei before, and now you're trying again. Perhaps the guards were your men, tasked with taking him away first, and then you'd finish the job here. Luckily, I accompanied him, and your plan failed. Dai Hyun stepped in, his tone firm. Stop it now, Jin Ling. That's enough. If His Highness really did such things, why would he save young Master Wei from them? Jin Ling retorted, just because he doesn't want anyone to suspect him. That's why he saved Wei. Xiao Yun approached from behind, placing a calming hand on Jin Ling's arm. Ling, stop. Why would His Highness do such a thing? I intervened, attempting to defuse the tense situation. Jin Ling, Shu, stop now. Enough. Dai Hyun added, young Master Wei is His Highness's best friend. How could he do such a thing to him? Huan Shu signaled to Dai Hyun, his eyes filled with deep sadness. I don't care about the accusations, Dai. Let it go. As Huan Shu began to leave, Jin Ling shouted, that's a convenient way to escape your own fault. I grasped Jin Ling's arm, trying to calm her down. Jin Ling, stop now. Why do you think Prince Huan Shu was behind the attempt on my life? Jin Ling's voice was laced with venom. Because. Xiao Yun intervened, her tone soothing. Ling, we need to return to the palace. It's getting dark. Let's go, and please, stay calm. Don't behave like this in the palace. Jin Ling's expression turned defiant. Oh really? I'm just telling the truth. I placed a gentle hand on Jin Ling's shoulder. Come on, let's go. As we prepared to depart, a man led a traditional carriage, drawn by two majestic horses, to a stop in front of us. I gazed at the carriage, reminiscent of ancient times when people relied on such vehicles for travel. Xiao Yun gestured toward the carriage. Let's go. Just as we were about to board, Bao intervened, handing me the sword and its scabbard. Child, you dropped this. Tong picked up the tassel attached to the sword hilt. Child, look. It's detached. I took the tassel and examined it, but Jin Ling's face twisted in frustration. She grasped the sword from Bao's hand, her eyes narrowing. Isn't this Prince Huan Shu's sword? She demanded. Bao and Tong exchanged uneasy glances before nodding in unison. Yes. Jin Ling's gaze swept the area, her voice laced with urgency. Where is Wei's sword? Bao, I'm asking you something. Tong tried hard not to make eye contact with Jin Ling, but she looked at him and said, Tong, why does he have Prince Huan Shu's sword instead of his own? Tong hesitated. Later that night. We walked through the grand corridors of the palace, our footsteps echoing off the marble floors. As we entered an opulent chamber, we found dignitaries and officials seated on either side, their gazes fixed upon us. At the front, on a raised dais, sat the king on his throne. To his left stood Su Min and Sung Min, their eyes locked on us as we approached. The entire assembly rose as we entered, murmurs rippling through the crowd. Look, he's really alive. I thought it was just a rumor. Did he fake his own death? But why would anyone do that? I heard he betrayed the palace, smuggling expensive goods in the dead of night and leaking secrets to another kingdom. Unease settled in my stomach as I listened. I muttered under my breath, why are they saying all this? I thought Wei Liang was good. Is he no different from Huan Shu? I'm so confused. As we reached the throne, the advisor's voice rang out, silence. A shiver ran down my spine at his command, and an inexplicable surge of hatred flared within me. Why did I feel this way about him? I noticed Jin Ling and Sung Min exchange a long, weighted glance, one heavy with unspoken emotions. Before I could dwell on it, a voice called from the back of the room, Welcome, Wei Liang. The advisor's gaze sharpened. Wei Liang, do you know why you've been summoned here? Before I could answer, another voice erupted from the crowd. He faked his own death to escape his crimes, and now he returns, thinking all will be forgotten. The room exploded into accusations and contempt. Sung Min's voice rose above the chaos, firm and resolute. What would he gain by faking his own death? A court official sneered. He betrayed the palace, leaked secrets, and now expects to be forgiven. The advisor's voice dripped with malice. Perhaps his so-called memory loss is just another deception. Dai Hyun's calm voice cut through the uproar. Does anyone have proof that young Master Wei faked his death or betrayed the palace? A brief silence fell over the room, but then a man sneered, if you need proof, ask him yourself. He can explain it better. Su Min's composed voice interrupted, that's not an answer. Without evidence, how can you accuse him? Another man scoffed. What's wrong with what he said? Wei Liang did it, he should explain himself. Jin Ling's eyes flashed with anger. Aren't you happy to see him return? You're all just jealous of his exceptional swordsmanship. A court official retorted, jealous? Of him? Never. Xiao Yun interjected, really? You're not jealous. I've seen it in your eyes. Another official snarled, he's the one driven by jealousy and ambition. A man muttered, maybe he's here to finish what he started. Su Min snapped, watch your words. We're only speaking the truth. Tong and Bao stepped forward. Child Wei would never do such things. A nobleman scoffed, servants should stay silent when their betters speak. Tong and Bao lowered their heads in sadness. Anger surged within me. How dare he treat them this way? Don't you dare speak to them like that. I found myself saying. I wasn't Wei Liang, yet I felt compelled to defend them. The advisor let out a mocking laugh. Worry about yourself, not them. Xiao Yun countered, he has done nothing wrong, so why should he worry? The accusations continued, filling the hall with hostility. Only Sung Min, Su Min, Jin Ling, Xiao Yun, Tong, and Bao stood by my side. I glanced at Huan Shu, who sat silent, his grip on his sword tightening in anger. Someone sneered, a man like him deserves to be dead. Jin Ling snapped, how dare you? You're just a girl. Know your place. Sung Min's voice turned menacing. How dare you speak to her like that? Say it again, and you'll regret it. Why defend a girl who tries to act like a man? Sung Min drew his sword. Would you like to test me? The king's voice boomed. Crown Prince, sheath your sword and remain silent. Though frustrated, Sung Min obeyed. The crowd's fury reached its peak, chanting, kill Wei Liang. Kill Wei Liang. A man lunged at me with a sword, but before he could strike, Huan Shu intervened, knocking the weapon from his hands and pinning him to the ground. Shut up, he thundered. Anyone who dares utter another word against Wei Liang will answer to me. He stood protectively before me. If anyone tries to harm him, they will face the death penalty. Not even your corpses will be found. The king rebuked him. Prince Huan Shu, control yourself. Huan Shu glared at him. You stayed silent while they accused him, but now you tell me to behave. A courtier hesitated before asking, but what about his past actions? Huan Shu cut him off. Did I ask for your opinion? The king's voice cracked with anger. I remained silent because of his past. The advisor sneered. Prince Huan Shu, do you understand the consequences of your actions? You're risking the stability of the kingdom to protect a traitor. Huan Shu stood firm. I understand perfectly. But does anyone have proof of his betrayal? The king countered, do you have proof of his innocence, prince? No, Huan Shu admitted. But I will find it. And I will expose the real criminal. At this, the advisor's face twisted in barely concealed fear. We should punish him now, to make an example of him. The king interrupted. I will allow 1 month to prove his innocence. However, Wei Liang will remain in the palace. He is not permitted to leave or see his family without permission. Jin Ling opened her mouth to protest, but Sung Min gently held her wrist, whispering, Genie, not now. Please. To everyone's surprise, Sung Min stepped forward. We stand with Wei Liang. Jin Ling, Su Min, Xiao Yun, Tong, and Bao joined him. We will stand with Child Wei. The advisor's face fell. Crown Prince, Princess, you too. A man approached. I stand with Wei Liang. The advisor clenched his jaw, his own son had spoken. More palace staff stepped forward. We support Child Wei. The advisor seethed, his anger barely restrained. The king concluded, very well. You have supporters. You have 1 month to prove his innocence. Fail, and the punishment will be severe. Huan Shu bowed mockingly. Thank you, Your Majesty. I will ensure the innocent are not punished in place of the guilty. The advisor looked frustrated, even fearful. Huan Shu grasped my wrist and led me away, leaving the assembly behind. He took me to an open yard and kept walking until he finally stopped, turning to me with eyes filled with care. Wei, don't go outside without telling me, he said, his voice laced with concern. I looked into his eyes and muttered in my mind, when did you become this sweet? Suddenly, Jin Ling, Xiao Yun, Tong, Bao, and Dai Hyun appeared from behind. Huan Shu glanced at them and left with Dai Hyun. Jin Ling said to me, Wei, I don't trust anyone. After what happened before, I don't want it to happen again. Her voice was firm but worried. Xiao Yun reassured her, Ling, I'm here. Trust me, I'll be with him. Tong and Bao are also here, you can trust us, her voice was soft and soothing. Tong and Bao nodded in agreement. Yes, Maiden Jean, you can trust us, they chimed in unison, their voices filled with conviction. Jin Ling's worry was evident. I trust you, but... Mother is at home alone, and Xue is just a kid. I'm worried. I have to go, her voice was laced with anxiety. Xiao Yun intervened, her voice sweet and calming. So go, and you can leave peacefully. We're here with Wei. Jin Ling hesitated, but Xiao Yun reassured her again. Tong, Bao, take Wei to his room. Then she escorted Jin Ling away. At the palace's grand entrance, they walked together until Sung Min appeared from behind and grasped Jin Ling's wrist. Jin Ling turned to see who it was and, upon seeing Sung Min, said rudely, Let go of my hand, her voice cold and sharp. Sung Min released her hand, and Xiao Yun bowed. Jin Ling, her tone still harsh, said, What do you want, Crown Prince? Then she turned to leave, her voice firm and dismissive. Sung Min blocked her path and said in a sweet, calm voice, Genie, it's quite dark. Shall I escort you? His tone was gentle and considerate. Jin Ling replied, No need, I can walk by myself, her voice was firm but slightly hesitant. Sung Min said, But it's dark, and it's dangerous. Jin Ling cut him off, her tone sharp. Do you think I'm weak or incapable of defending myself? Her voice was laced with indignation. I don't know why all men think that a girl is weak and can't do anything on her own. Sung Min hesitated. Genie. Xiao Yun intervened, sensing the tension. Ling, His Highness doesn't mean that, and look, it's dark, she said, her voice soft and mediating. Sung Min added, Genie, if you don't want me to take you home, I won't insist, but please, get in the carriage. I'm worried, his voice filled with concern. The carriage, adorned with 2 horses in front, waited nearby. Jin Ling refused, saying, No, I don't want to go. I can walk alone. And who are you to be worried about me? Her voice was laced with defiance. Sung Min's face fell, and he said, But. Xiao Yun urged Jin Ling, Ling, please get in the carriage, her voice soft and persuasive. After some persuasion, Jin Ling agreed. As she stepped into the carriage, her leg trembled, and she almost fell, but Sung Min caught her in his embrace. They locked eyes for a moment, and Xiao Yun blushed. Jin Ling pushed Sung Min away and entered the carriage. As the carriage departed, Xiao Yun bowed and left. Sung Min stood still, watching the carriage disappear into the distance, whispering softly, Be safe, Genie. Meanwhile, in his chambers, Huan Shu stood tall, his posture straight, but his expression betrayed his worry. Dai Hyun approached him from behind and asked, Your Highness, what's troubling you? Huan Shu glanced at him and replied, Nothing, just thinking. Dai Hyun urged, Your Highness, you can share your concerns with me. Huan Shu hesitated before speaking. I was thinking about the attack. Who could have done it? They all seem to be targeting Wei. Hyun reassured him, "Your Highness, don't worry. The soldiers are investigating, and I'm sure they'll find the culprit soon." Huan Shu's worry lingered, and Hyun sensed it. "Your Highness, I know that's not the only thing troubling you. May I ask what's really on your mind?" Huan Shu finally revealed his concern. "Is that person really Wei? He calls Jean Ling by her name, even though she is his elder sister. Most importantly, when I saved him from the assassins, he called me Prince instead of I." Hyun explained, "Your Highness, young Master Wei has lost his memory. How can he remember those things?" Huan Shu trailed off, but Hyun interrupted, reassuring him, "Your Highness, don't worry. Young Master Wei will regain his memories soon." Thanks for watching. Do like and subscribe for more episodes and check out the link below to follow the original author and her work on Wattpad.